Hello, friends, and welcome to Neumind Café. This is Zack, Madsen, and this is episode 1. This is the start of it all. Myles, Haruki, and I just sat down and had a conversation about what is Neumind Café, what does that word even mean, and we just got into it. Or I guess more so, we talked about what we're getting ourselves into. So yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and hope you enjoy. Hello, welcome to Neumind Café. I'm here with Myles, Haruki, and my name is Zack Madsen. And, well, here we go. This is just episode 1.
I know, episode 1 of 1,000. We have 1,000 episodes planned to release this year. I'm
goodness.
kidding.
Well, let's start with one, and then we'll get to the rest of those, I guess, at some point.
So, I think like a huge reason why we're doing this fun, awkward start is, I think like a big question that I think a lot of people will have is, what is Neumind Café? And what the hell does that have to do with a podcast?
Yeah. So, we're just here sipping our coffee. Yeah, I'm done with my coffee. We've been sitting here for a little bit talking beforehand. Are you done with your coffee?
I'm still sipping mine, but that's private.
That's private. We're here with our coffee, just kind of having a casual conversation. Yeah. And, that's where I would say the cafe aspect comes in, because there's something about going to a cafe, sitting down with another person, and there's a freedom to just letting yourself out, letting yourself be, and just communicating with another person and sharing, not necessarily a meal, but something like that, little tasty treat.
There's definitely something about like eating food that's very grounding and kind of connects you with like your humanity. Yeah. And I feel like drinking taps into, there's something about drinking a beer or coffee or anything of that sort. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So, it opens up pathways that wouldn't normally exist.
Yeah, you get in a vulnerable sort of place. So this Neumind Café then is sitting down, having a conversation with another person, and hopefully along the way we will have many people be able to have many conversations with people. And so, we're really centering this around arts and creativity, and there's something about fully being present in what you're doing, whether it's a craft or a job or whatever it is. And so to have that space and allow yourself to just be present, be fully, what's that word? Contemplative, I guess. Just step into that space of allowing what needs to come out just come out. And so the cafe part, again, is just having the conversation. But Neumind is actually a play on words. It's a Greek word, pneuma.
Whoa. Like Greek as in modern Greek, or is that like...
No, it's ancient Greek.
That was a leading question. I knew that. I'm a seminary student, for those who don't know. So I'm actually taking Greek right now.
Yeah. What are your grades?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm taking it for pass-fail. That's a long story. It's not my favorite thing, but it is nice to know certain words are cool. So why don't you talk about pneuma? What's that word mean? And what does that word mean to you? I feel like is the more important question.
Totally.
And what does that have to do with creativity?
Yeah, well, let me first start by saying, so Myles just said he is a seminary student. Yes. I have an undergrad, I have a bachelor's degree in biblical studies, but I do want to point out that this is not a Christian podcast.
No. It is anti-Christian.
No.
I'm kidding. Totally kidding.
It's not anti.
Christians are welcome.
But we're trying to create a space that's really more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
More inviting for everybody. And that's the reason why I would like to make that disclaimer, is that this isn't necessarily a Christian podcast, because I think that often when we have those spaces that are defined, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu, I'm whatever it is, there's a box. And as soon as you start pushing on the boundaries of that box, it starts making people feel excluded. And so like, this is not a club. Again, like, I want this to be as accessible for my Christian brothers as it is for my Buddhist brothers or my New Agey brothers, or I should say sisters too, or just anybody.
Siblings. Yeah.
Siblings, yeah.
And I would want to add, as a seminary student, for me, I am going to seminary to be an interfaith chaplain. So although I am being trained to be rooted and trained within a very specific tradition, and I do go to an Episcopal church, all that stuff, for me, I'm much more interested in what it means to be human than what it means to be Christian. And to me, faith is what draws me into what it means to be human.
Yeah.
Because I know telling people like, oh, seminary student, it could sound high off the ground. And I want you guys to know I'm fully on board with Zack. And this is going to be a space about welcoming the other, about welcoming someone and their work and creativity. And yeah, I think that was so important to say.
Yeah.
But speaking about us not being a Christian podcast, why don't you go and tell us about a biblical Greek word?
Right. Pneuma.
That is our training. That is what we know.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of that's what we know.
Yeah.
So let's start with that. What do you know about Pneuma?
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get back to ourselves, I guess, in future episodes coming up. So stay tuned. So Pneuma, Pneuma is a word that basically means spirit. It means breath. It means wind. And so anytime we have the word in the Christian context, Holy Spirit, there is, I think over the years, there's been this sort of misconception of what that means. And so I kind of want to use Pneuma, new mind, as a way to sort of reintroduce these traditional themes. And so Pneuma, again, means spirit, wind, and it doesn't necessarily mean this like outside of ourselves, like sort of God presence. In fact, it's very internal, not eternal. We can get to that later, I guess, but there's an internal quality of Pneuma. There's this spirit. And so if I could, Myles.
Yeah. Please.
Why don't we just take a breath for a moment? Just inhale. Exhale. And for those of you listening, whether you're driving, whatever you're doing, just inhale. Exhale. And that's a quality that we all have. Every living creature has this essence of life, and that is breath. And it doesn't take a scientist to know that when we stop breathing, we stop existing, we stop living. And so maybe tangibly we're here, we're physically like here, but there's something about me talking to you, Myles.
Yeah.
There's something about us talking into these microphones, and then whoever's listening can hear that. Yeah. And they start to conceptualize, oh, these are words, and these words have meanings. And so what we're trying to get to is what's behind those meanings. So we're using words as a medium, but like I said, creative arts is there are so many different ways to be creative and to step into what it means to be human. Yeah. And I like how you phrase that. So Pneuma is this spirit that fills each of us. And that's not just a Christian thing. It's not just a Jewish thing or an Islamic thing. It is ingrained in all living creatures. And I think it's that space that connects us. When I'm able to just utter these things out of my mouth and these sound waves hit your ear in a certain way.
And somehow it resonates with me and I go, keep talking. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, that's what Pneuma is. And so, again, it's just like a play on words, Neumind Café. It's a play on accepting and being in this space of, I guess, just existing.
Could I like maybe say something,
you
or like to
can.
like what I'm hearing is like Neumind is going to be a space that celebrates the thing that resonate with people.
Yeah.
And you could almost like distill it down to that there's something of essence that is in everyone, but there's something about art, and not just art in the traditional sense, but anything that channels creativity that has the ability to resonate with people, whether that's like a song that you're listening to, or a podcast that you're listening to, or a conversation that you're having, or good food, whatever it is. There's like, I can hear that you're trying, like, this is a space that's celebrating the resonant. The Pneuma, the spirit that fills, the animating life that fills everyone. Everything. I feel like you could take that beyond humans too.
And to put it in different language, like, this isn't, so again, like, I don't want to just focus on the Christian narrative of that spirit driven thing, but I mean, even like the Christians, early Christians adopted that Greek language. And so this isn't even a Christian idea. I think it's become a Christianized sort of thing.
Yeah.
But originally, it had that ancient Greek context of, like, these are Greek philosophers that sort of developed these words such as pneuma.
Yeah.
And so just all that to say is that I think this is a cross-cultural phrase.
Yeah.
Maybe not that word pneuma, because again, that's an ancient Greek thing and it's become a Christianized thing, but I think that idea that's behind that is a cross-cultural concept that just keeps popping up from what I've been experiencing and seeing in other cultures. And so like our new agey friends might say, like, the energy that surrounds me or something like that. And again, I'm not trying to belittle any other context or culture. Like, that's not my goal at all. It is to say, like, we have these ways of saying almost the same thing. We just have different words or different vernacular for it. But
I love
when we get to the root of it, there's a lot of similarities within it.
Yeah, I love that. And just to use my seminary hat a little bit, there's a disclaimer that I'm not an expert on the languages, but it's interesting because even in the Hebrew Bible, which is another way of saying the Old Testament, but to like not appropriate Judaism, let's just say in Judaism's sacred text, there's an ancient Hebrew word called ruah, which also means like spirit, wind, life. So even within these two sets of sacred texts, there's a similar word to describe spirit.
To go a little bit deeper, and again, like, just from my cultural background of Christianity, when the presence of God or the character of God is entering the story in Genesis at the very beginning, and again, like, I think this is more of a narrative, it's a story, it's very beautiful poetry. So if it feels uncomfortable to hear this from a literal perspective, that's okay. I don't take it from a literal perspective either.
No, I'm kidding. Every word is literal.
Oh, no.
Including Psalm 137, which says, "Blessed are those who bash babies' heads against the rock."
Oh.
Did you know that one?
No.
That's everyone's favorite psalm.
Is that in there?
It is there. There's a specific context, and psalm is the Psalms are obviously a collection of poems, and also by a group of people that were marginalized by an empire. But there it is. Anyways, keep going.
So Myles takes it very literal.
Yes.
No, we're just being facetious. But so that word ruach that you said, again, is an ancient Hebrew word. And so this is tradition that's been passed down and passed down and passed down. One of the traditions, I might say, not the only tradition. And I think that's very important to highlight. But, so that word ruach is the same word. So it says the Spirit of God, this character of God enters this story. And the Spirit, this ruach, wind, is the same word that appears when it's filling Adam's lungs, humanity's lungs. So the human beings within this story are getting filled with this Spirit, and now they have life. Maybe another way of putting it is they now have a consciousness. They now have this, like, I think, therefore I am sort of concept. And this is thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just I love that beautiful poetry there. So ruach, pneuma, those are just some of the words that we have for spirit, for like, hey, I'm able to think. I'm not just like an animal. Like I have value. And so when we acknowledge that in everybody, every single person has this spirit, has a soul, has a presence, has more than that is just like a tangible existence. You start to value what's around you, or who's around you, I should say. But then you can also see like, well, there's animals too, and they have breath, they have a life presence, or even trees. They have an inhale, exhale as well. The carbon dioxide turns into oxygen that we then receive, and so just the presence of life that is in, surrounding, and in and among all things. So it's just
there we go.
It's peaceful for me to.
That'll preach.
Yeah.
Let me I think maybe we have a couple minutes left here, so why don't let's take those ideas and bring it down to what do you want to see? Yeah. What do you want? What is your vision? What kinds of people do you want to see on this podcast, and what kind of what conversations do you want to have?
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I got some music in the chamber ready to go, getting ready to release some stuff. But all that to say is I've often used music as a way of journaling, and sometimes there's been times where I'm writing stuff down, and then I go, oh, that's what I'm feeling. Okay, I didn't know that was there. And it's a release for me. It's this expressive, and so I think there's something about this idea needs to become embodied. It needs to be, music, of course, is not a tangible thing, but it becomes, it exists outside of myself.
There is a thingness to music.
A thingness, yeah.
There's something concrete that's there that you can hear and experience.
Yeah.
It's no longer just abstract idea anymore.
Yeah. So what, with music for me, that is a way for me, to sort of embody and to express my inner thoughts, my inner soul, my pneuma spirit. But that's just me. There's other ways that I'm creative, but that's the primary way. And so for others, I would like to bring others onto this podcast that also have a sense of creativeness and explore what that means for individuals. Because I think the more that we hear from other individuals, the more that we are able to learn and just go, oh, okay, so to be human for this person, this is what it looks like. To be human for you, Myles, what does that look like for you? What's sort of your space?
You're actually asking me.
I am.
And it's not hypothetical. I guess I am recording a podcast with you. So I did say, my goal is I'm working towards being a chaplain, and so much of that role, and I also have experience working as a youth pastor and even as a Starbucks, in all the things I've done, there's always been an element of being a safe person for others to be themselves. And so for me, I think I'll have the joy of creating space for people on this podcast, including you, including me, to be their authentic self, which is where I think creativity comes from, a space of mysterious authenticity. And also for me, I've never been someone who, I did want to be a comedian after high school. So there was a little bit of an exploration there, but I've always been someone who's felt like a creative person in spaces that people don't see as creative. So for me, I'm really interested in highlighting how creativity is something that exists everywhere. I think I believe that everyone is creative, but I want to highlight the people that are choosing to embrace their creativity in all sorts of spaces. And for me, I have a foot in the door in a like a religious context. So I could have people like theologians and pastors, cool people who are doing amazing work and really showcasing what they're doing. I have a friend, shout out to Paul, who's a dungeon master.
Yeah.
If anyone is a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, it's incredibly creative. It is it's about creating a whole world through someone is creating a whole world. So that's sort of what I'm interested in is creativity in the quote unquote mundane spheres, because that's just been my experience. And that's
right
sort of me. Yeah.
So your creative outlet is literally doing stuff like this.
Doing stuff like this. I mean, I do identify as a writer, and I've been able to explore a ton of that, like writing papers, and I do have the ambitions of hopefully writing a book one day. Which is something I'd love to do. I am a barista, so there's an element of like latte art, that stuff too, but it's also a Starbucks barista, so there ain't time for that. But yeah, like I've done all sorts of things in high school. I made a 20-minute film. I've done improv. I've just been surrounded by it. And I've always, it's interesting. It's hard to put to words. But yeah, I feel like right now, as a student, as a chaplain in training, and as a writer, those are my current outlets. And also this, I think that's a huge reason why I'm doing this, is I just needed this. I needed an outlet. Yeah.
As in Neumind Café stuff?
Yeah. And maybe we'll get into this in a few episodes, but I think even as we've been working on this, I've been able to reconnect with parts of myself that I haven't been able to embrace in a couple years. So, So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And, again, like, we have it planned out a little bit. We're going to interview each other, actually.
Yes.
In some coming episodes. So I'll touch more on that later, but yeah, thank you for sharing. So for those listening, if you have any creative outlets, anything you do, and I mean it, like painting, music, clothing design, filmmaking, like the list of opportunities to be creative is just endless.
Yes.
And if none of those ring a bell, I would even encourage you in your life to, what are areas that I am creative? If you're like a business person and it's like, man, I made the best spreadsheet. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that is a form of creativity. Like, if that's how your brain works with like numbers and like, this is how you sort of get this internal thought. And you make it a tangible thing for others to access or to be helpful. I think that's the importance of art. Being creative, stepping into that. So it's not just the obvious choices of creativity, but maybe it's just being a parent. Like I created something.
Yes.
I created a person, and now I get to be at home and raise this person and be creative of how I do that. Like I really think it extends into any aspect of our life that we get to enjoy and celebrate and even fail and learn from mistakes and move forward from there too. Yeah.
And can I get a little political? I'm gonna get political.
Ooh.
I think like
episode 1.
In episode 1, I just like a thing that I've been saying with people as like I've had conversations around this. I think just a basic observation that I can make is that I think a lot of people would agree that if people approached politics and society and everything creatively, then we'd be in a very different place. Because how many problems that are perpetuated and exist are just maintained because of a lack of imagination. And if you were to imagine the possibilities of what can be, and maybe my democratic socialism is coming out a little bit, but whatever it is, I think creativity is in a lot of ways the answer to a lot of things, and in a way that I think is beyond what I can understand. I think that's true. And so I also want to say, if anyone wants to come on the podcast and is like, yes, this is me, reach out.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is one of the few podcasts where you're allowed to reach out and you'll be a guest.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out.
And part of it too, so for me, I get to explore the different meanings of life for different individuals. But for you all creatives, this is also a space for you to get your stuff heard by others. And so I really want to build a community centered around all these creative people so that we can eventually there can be a space where we can come together and have that sort of freedom and just, that's that songwriter I heard on the podcast, or that's that whatever, just all these people coming together. And there isn't an end goal we're going to create a beautiful world with it, but it's more of just again, just allowing us as individuals to have that free space, that free will, that freedom to just be who you are.
Yes.
Fully, completely.
What a gift.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a good episode 1.
I feel good. This is fun. Like and subscribe. Rate us.
Yeah.
Don't review bomb us yet.
Not yet. Wait till there's some more. So I know Myles just said that he has democratic socialism aspects coming out. But don't let that be the thing that turns you away from this podcast. No. Because we seriously, we just want to explore having this open mind of all different walks of life. And so we'll probably even have people on here that we disagree with personally. Yeah. But that's the goal. Yeah. Because it's not just I have the right perspective of life. And that's that's why we wanted to give that little disclaimer. This is not a Christian podcast. Yeah. This is not the box that we're going to fit in. In fact, we want this to be very open-ended. Yeah. So all people are welcome. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're not going to even turn it into a debate podcast either. I think it really is going to be about the sacred and rare gift that everyone knows is so needed right now of giving space for people to be themselves. And just listening. Yeah. Active listening. Yeah. And so, for you all listeners, if there's an episode that's I don't like that they're talking about this topic. Hey, you know what you can do? You can just go to the next episode. And that's all right. That's okay. You don't have to hear them all. There will be something for everyone, I'm sure. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. So that's it for this one. Yeah. Anything, any closing? Closing thoughts? No, I feel really happy with this, and hopefully it's coming through, but I'm really ecstatic to be doing this. Awesome. So awesome. Me too. All right. Well, thank you, and see you in the next episode. See ya. Again, thank you so much for tuning in with us for episode 1, and I hope you enjoyed hearing about what Neumind Café is or what it can become, and we're just so excited to get this thing going. So please like and subscribe wherever you're hearing this podcast. Maybe even give us a review. Be super helpful. And it just helps us spread the word about what we're doing and try to get more people involved and just build that sense of community that we were talking about in this episode. And you can also follow us along on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. What am I missing? Patreon. We have a Patreon page. And check out our website, neumindcafe.com. And for those of you that don't know, that's Neumind Cafe. So please, follow along with us. Again, we're so glad you're here. We appreciate you all dearly. Thank you. And peace to you all.